Professor Kate Williams is an historian and author of several award-winning best-selling books, including biographies on Queen Victoria and Josephine Bonaparte and the novel Storms of War. Her work has been adapted for stage and screen, and she often appears on television in her own right as an expert and panellist on a wide range of factual and entertainment shows. Here she speaks to me about what she's learnt about royalty, power, and the benefits of embracing your fears. Kate, thank you. You've let me into your house, which is wonderful. Piled high with books, obviously.
Yes, there are books everywhere. The part of the furniture, I think.
In terms of writing, what would you say makes a successful writer? Because I wrote a book and I don't think I'll ever write another one again. It's incredibly hard work.
I think you always feel that at the beginning of a book. I've just published my 9th book about Mary Queen of Scots, and you always feel that you can never get up that mountain again. It seems such a painful mountain covered in rocks, and it's so awful. But it is a sense, it is a big battle, I think. I think it's a huge battle to write a book, but and it doesn't necessarily get any easier, but I think it's one that is worth every minute of the misery, I think. And I think, although I at times hate it, I also love it. And when I'm not writing a book, it doesn't feel right.
What is the secret for you, do you think, the thing that really allows you to power through all of those dark moments and actually complete the book?
I think that how do I get through the dark moments? Well, there are a lot of dark moments and you want to give up or write another book. And before I wrote my first novel, I had 5 novels that I tried and failed to finish. And now I just have to force myself. I have to make myself finish because somehow I've got to finish it. And even if it doesn't work, I mean, there are novels I've written since being published that my agent has said maybe not, and you just have to sort of put them aside.
Really?
Yes,
The whole book?
The whole book has to, and maybe I'll come back to it, maybe I'll revise it, but it, obviously it's a bit painful when they say I don't think you can make anything of this, but the whole book has to be put aside and you have to start again. So you have to have a certain amount of courage to start all over again when what you did perhaps doesn't work.
The characters you write about, often you write about monarchs. You write about a lot of the people that operate around monarchy. Historical leaders in many cases. What have you learnt about their success and how they got into the positions that they found themselves in?
It's a fascinating question with monarchs, especially looking at monarchs in the earlier period, because simply they're born into success. They get the job of monarch simply by accident of birth. But then you see how easy it is to lose that esteem, and whether it's the esteem of the sort of close-knit number of aristocrats around you, or whether it's the esteem of the people, which we see progressing more in history, that the people's opinion matters much more. So the people's opinion doesn't necessarily matter that much to Henry VIII, but it does. It's very important to Victoria. So Victoria is constantly spinning her image, spinning what she does, having portraits made of her to please the rising middle classes, to make herself look like a middle-class queen look like a middle-class housewife, as opposed to looking like a queen in ermine and furs. Whereas Henry VIII is out with the ermine and furs because he's trying to impress other monarchs and the aristocrats. How do you succeed as a king? I think you succeed, most of all, by pleasing your power base, whether or not that's Victoria charming the middle classes, or whether or not that's Henry VIII hammering the Scots, hammering the Welsh to try and give his aristocrats more land, and also dissolving the monasteries, which enriches his friends and enriches the coffers and pushes forward the cause of Protestantism, which many of his aristocrats are very keen Protestant. So I think pleasing your power base is very important as a monarch, and once you stop doing that, once you lose their support, you are in real problems. And if you don't have a power base at all, like Mary Queen of Scots, you're almost doomed from the beginning.
Which is interesting because the current queen, her power base is the public. She's got public support, and that's what keeps her in her position. So would you say it's the same for her? She's having to empower her audience, her base.
Well, you write so brilliantly about the Queen in your book Cloutology. I mean, it's really you write so importantly about her, and I think that she does have to please her power base, and that is public opinion, because the courtiers around her, they're employees, their staff, and their friends, but it's public opinion, it's the newspaper opinion, it's what's said on the internet, it's what's said on the TV, and that's very important. And I think that she has done so. There are similarities between her and Victoria in the sense that Victoria, unlike all the monarchs before, got rid of all the pomp and circumstance and looked like a middle-class housewife. Or the Queen very rarely wears her crown and her robes and dresses in this very modest manner, even though obviously it costs a fortune, but she dresses in this very modest manner, and she's very famed for having this quite modest outlook, this frugality, and also her focus on her political neutrality. Behind closed doors, she asks all sorts of questions. But I think it's clear that her power base is pleased by her political neutrality, by her giving the impression of frugality, of careful with her money, of really being like reflecting her childhood as a war baby. And those two aspects of her, as well as the fact that she always seems so engaged with the people she meets, these are very important, I think, and have been really important in creating her as, I think, one of our most popular monarchs in history. So I think that all successful people in history, I might hazard, are driven by this level of insecurity, a level of trying to prove themselves. Henry VIII is always trying to prove himself against his brother Arthur, who is meant to be king but dies, and there's always this feeling that he was the better king, so Henry's fighting to prove he wasn't. And I think that I think that really happy people tend not to want success.
They're not as driven.
I think that they can be happy with what they have, because I think that what makes you push on in the world and sacrifice all kinds of things. You see every successful person in history sacrifice so much: family life, marriages, money, position, sacrificing it to get what they hope for, falling out with their families over everything. I think that there is this desire, this drivenness, and some of it, and it's something that's not content, that pushes you on, and you're never satisfied. I think being never satisfied always pushes you forward. I do remember reading a very interesting interview with David Bailey when he was saying that he is never satisfied with any contact sheet. He's never liked any of the photos he's ever made. He just doesn't like any of them. And I think that's really key. I think so many actors that I meet, they never like what they've done, and they just think, I'm going to do on. And I think lots of authors are the same. Every piece of human endeavour, I think, ever since we fell out of the Garden of Eden, can't be perfect, and you're driven on. You're driven on in the hope that you can produce something that's better and perfect. And I think you're constantly driven. If you said to yourself, "Okay, I've written the best novel here that I ever could write, and there we go, that's it. Why write anything else?" But I think you're constantly pushing yourself. So I think there is a in your heart. We're obviously told in life to be content and to live in the moment and to be happy. But I think that it's very hard to do both.
Where does your fear come from then?
Where does my
But you're driven because you work hard.
I would say that no, I do work hard, and I do work hard, and I'm never satisfied with what I do, and I'm always trying to do something else. I'm always striving, perhaps too much, and I think it's because I do think as a child, and this isn't my parents' fault at all. They were very kind people, but I never felt as if I quite had pleased them enough and quite had done it enough. So I think it's something in my personality. So I was always trying to be that striving person, always trying to be the hard-working person, and never happy with what I did. And I can't leave that their door at all, because they were very supportive. But I think I never felt that I had done anything good enough, and so I kept on trying.
And finally, what would you say success is to you? I mean, when will you achieve success? Is it when you've written that book? Because it doesn't feel as if you're ever going to write that book.
Thanks, Max.
Well, no, I'm sure you will. I mean, people would say you already have, but in your own mind, you probably won't ever get there, will you?
No, and I don't know if I ever will. So no, I don't. I don't. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that perhaps I don't. If you're successful, you never truly believe that you are. And I think you always know that in public life, things can change in the turn of an eye. And like a monarch, you're always there. But if you have a role in public life, things can change. You can say the wrong thing on it. You could say the wrong thing on a TV program. You could swear on a TV program, and you suddenly might never get used again.
Yeah, that's my fear, definitely. You could lose it so easily. But what's your definition for success, would you say, when you look at other people, perhaps?
I think my definition of success is fighting through and keeping on trying, because what I see as success is not necessarily the authors who are making the most money. I see it as the ones who still are writing, and they're still pushing them forwards, and they're still writing the books they want to write, even though maybe those aren't selling or aren't even getting published. I think success for me is two things. It's following your heart and doing what you want to do, as opposed to necessarily being molded or writing or acting or performing or doing anything, or setting up a company of something you don't really want to do just because people say to you this is the right thing to do, to be pushed down that alleyway. And I think that it's overcoming. You're never going to overcome your fears, and I'm pro fears, and I'm pro self-doubt, and I'm pro even a level of self-dislike. I think it pushes you forwards, even though it doesn't make me perhaps the happiest person. I think it's good to feel you've got darkness inside you and you need to kind of work it out. But so I think it's very long-winded, but I think so for me would be, I think, following what you want to do and staying true to that as much as you can, because the world will try and crash it and change it and make you do something else and make you do things that other people have done, and will try and stop you doing original things. So I think it's staying true to what you want to do, and I think it's also, to a level, embracing the self-doubt and embracing the darkness and the heartbreak, and embracing bad reviews, embracing people that don't always like you, and still pushing forwards and climbing that mountain.
Kate, thank you so much. Thank you for speaking to me in your lovely home.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.